The summer sun beat down on Camp Evergreen. Rows of shiny RVs gleamed. Colorful tents dotted the landscape. Campers laughed and played. The air smelled of pine needles and campfires. It was a perfect day for an adventure. Families unloaded their gear. Kids chased each other through the campsite. The smell of sizzling burgers drifted through the air. Excitement filled the air as campers settled into their temporary homes. "Remember, Violet, stay within the campsite," Mom reminded me, her voice firm but kind. "No wandering off alone. It's important to be safe." "I know, Mom," I replied, rolling my eyes playfully. "You've only told me 1,000,000 times." Mom took safety seriously when we went camping. We had a strict set of rules. Always tell someone where you're going, never talk to strangers, and most importantly, stick to the designated paths. "I understand why we have rules, Mom," I said, trying to sound responsible. "But sometimes I just want to explore." Mom smiled. "I know you do, sweetie, but it's important to be cautious. The woods can be unpredictable." We finished setting up our tent. The canvas felt cool and shady. I unpacked my backpack, making sure I had my compass and whistle. Safety first, even when exploring the familiar paths of Camp Evergreen. A narrow wooded path beckoned from the edge of the campsite. I glanced at Mom. She was busy setting up the camp stove. This was my chance. Just a quick peek, I whispered to myself. The path wound through towering pines and fragrant cedar trees. Sunlight dappled the forest floor. The air was alive with the chirping of crickets and the rustling of leaves. Wildflowers bloomed in a riot of colors. Delicate purple violets peeked out from beneath ferns. Sunny yellow daisies nodded in the breeze. I resisted the urge to pick them. Mom always said it's important to leave nature as we find it. As I walked deeper into the woods, the trees grew denser. The sunlight faded. I noticed a clearing ahead. Several RVs and motorhomes were parked there. They looked old and abandoned. A shiver ran down my spine. These RVs were different from the ones at the campsite. They were dusty and covered in strange symbols. The curtains were drawn, hiding whoever might be inside. I hesitated, my heart pounding. Curiosity warred with caution. Mom's words echoed in my head. Never talk to strangers. I decided to turn back. Something about those RVs didn't feel right. Retracing my steps, I stumbled upon a small, secluded stream. The water sparkled in the sunlight. The sound of the gently flowing water was soothing. This place felt magical. A weathered wooden bench sat beside the stream. It looked like the perfect spot to rest and enjoy the tranquility of the woods. I sat down, enjoying the coolness of the shade. The leaves rustled behind me. I turned, expecting to see a squirrel or a bird. Instead, I saw a woman standing at the edge of the trees. She wore a wide-brimmed straw hat adorned with colorful wildflowers. The woman smiled, her eyes twinkling. "Hello, dear one," she said, her voice as sweet as honey. "What brings you to my little corner of the woods?" I hesitated. Mom always said not to talk to strangers, but there was something about this woman that made me feel safe. "I was just exploring," I replied shyly. "Exploring is good," the woman said, her smile widening. "There's so much wonder to be found in nature if you know where to look." She stepped into the sunlight, revealing a dress as colorful as the wildflowers in her hat. "My name is Rose," she said, extending a hand. "What's yours?" "Violet," I replied, shaking her hand. Her touch was surprisingly cold. Rose sat down beside me on the bench, her eyes twinkling with a secret she was eager to share. She reached into her bag and pulled out a handful of brightly colored threads, each one more vibrant than the last. The colors seemed to dance in the sunlight, creating a small rainbow in her hands. "Have you ever heard of the true knot, Violet?" she asked, her voice low and mysterious, as if she were about to reveal a long-lost secret. I shook my head, my curiosity piqued. "What's the true knot?" I asked, leaning in closer. Rose began to twist the threads together, her fingers moving with surprising speed and dexterity. It was almost hypnotic to watch, the way the colors intertwined and formed intricate patterns. "It's a special kind of knot," she explained, her voice filled with reverence. "Not just any knot, but one that holds great power and mystery. A knot that can only be tied with threads found in the deepest parts of the forest," she continued, her eyes glinting with the thrill of the tale. "These threads are said to be imbued with the essence of the forest itself." She held up the finished knot, a masterpiece of color and craftsmanship. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before. It shimmered in the sunlight, the colors blending together in a mesmerizing dance, casting tiny rainbows on the ground around us. "Legend has it," Rose continued, her voice dropping to a whisper, "that the true knot can grant wishes, but there's a catch. But only to those who are pure of heart," she said, her eyes locking onto mine. "Only those with true intentions can harness its power. Many have tried, but few have succeeded." I felt a surge of determination. Could I be one of the few? Rose's smile was encouraging, as if she believed I could be. We stood up and walked into the forest, the sunlight filtering through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the ground. The adventure was just beginning. As we walked, I noticed the unique threads scattered among the leaves, their colors vibrant against the earthy tones of the forest floor. Each thread seemed to hold a story, a piece of the forest's magic. We stopped to pick up the threads, gathering them carefully. Each one felt like a treasure, a key to unlocking the legend of the true knot. Rose and I smiled at each other, a silent understanding passing between us. This was more than just a story. It was a journey we were embarking on together. The true knot in Rose's hand shimmered once more, a promise of the magic and mystery that lay ahead. And so, hand in hand, we ventured deeper into the forest, ready to uncover the secrets of the true knot and perhaps make a wish of our own. The sun began to set, casting long shadows through the trees. The golden light filtered through the dense canopy, creating an almost magical atmosphere. The forest, usually so familiar, now seemed to be filled with secrets and whispers. I realized how late it must be. Panic surged through me. The shadows grew longer and the air felt cooler. I could feel the weight of the impending night pressing down on me. "I have to go," I said, scrambling to my feet. My heart raced as I thought about the path ahead. The forest, which had been a place of solace, now felt like a maze of uncertainty. My mom will be worried. The thought of her pacing back and forth, glancing at the clock, filled me with urgency. I couldn't bear the thought of causing her any more stress. Rose smiled, but her eyes held a strange, unsettling glint. It was as if she knew something I didn't, a secret she was keeping from me. "Of course, dear one," she said. Her voice was gentle, almost soothing, but there was an underlying tension that I couldn't quite place. "But take this with you." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, intricately carved object. She pressed the true knot into my hand. The object was warm to the touch, and I could feel a faint pulse, as if it had a life of its own. It felt warm, almost alive. The sensation was both comforting and eerie, a reminder of the power it held. "Remember what I told you?" Rose said, her voice barely a whisper. Her words sent a shiver down my spine. "The true knot can grant wishes." The weight of her words hung in the air, heavy with possibility and danger. "But be careful what you wish for." Her warning echoed in my mind, a stark reminder of the consequences that could follow. I turned and ran, my heart pounding in my chest. The forest seemed to close in around me, the trees whispering secrets I couldn't understand. The forest seemed darker now, the shadows deeper. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig made me jump. I could have sworn I heard Rose's laughter echoing behind me. It was a haunting sound, filled with both amusement and menace, and it spurred me to run even faster. I burst out of the trees and into the campsite, my heart pounding in my chest. The dense forest had felt like a maze, and I had been running for what seemed like hours. The sight of the familiar clearing brought a wave of relief. Relief washed over me as I spotted our tent, its bright colors standing out against the darkening sky. It was a beacon of safety and comfort amidst the wilderness. Mom was pacing back and forth, her face etched with worry. Her eyes darted around the campsite, searching for any sign of me. The lines on her face seemed deeper, etched by the anxiety of the past few hours. "Violet!" she exclaimed, rushing towards me with open arms. Her voice was a mix of relief and reprimand, the kind only a mother can master. "Where have you been? I've been so worried." Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the fear she had felt. I threw my arms around her, burying my face in her shirt, the familiar scent of her perfume mixed with the earthy smell of the forest, grounding me. "I'm sorry, Mom," I mumbled, my voice muffled against her shirt. I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes. "I just went for a walk," I explained, my voice barely above a whisper. The words felt inadequate, unable to convey the adventure and fear I had experienced. Mom held me tight, her grip firm but reassuring. It was as if she was afraid to let go, fearing I might disappear again. "It's okay," she said softly, her voice soothing. "You're safe now, that's all that matters." "Just promise me you won't wander off again," she pleaded, her eyes searching mine for assurance. "It's not safe out there, especially at night," she added, her voice taking on a more serious tone. The forest held many dangers, both seen and unseen. I nodded, clutching the true knot in my pocket. It was a small, seemingly insignificant object, but it held a strange power that I couldn't quite understand. As Mom led me back to the tent, I couldn't shake the feeling that something about this campsite, about Rose and the true knot, was not quite right. The shadows seemed to stretch longer, and the air felt heavier. I knew this was just the beginning of something much larger, something that would change our lives forever.